Thank you again. It is an honor to be here with everybody and working with BRMI. My background, I've studied biogeometry. This came in years ago. I was designing the pavilion. You might have heard about the startup I'm working on. And I had a picture of a pyramid up, and it was on artist rendering. It was on LinkedIn. And somebody I didn't know wrote back and said, if you don't take care of the vertical negative green in that pyramid, you're going to hurt people. I'm like, what? Vertical negative green? What do you... Anyway, that got me into Dr. Karim and his book, Back to a Future for Mankind. And I read it. My jaw opened. I fell. I'm like, oh, my God, this guy has figured out, like, the missing piece of science. Missing piece of, like, all our science, which I did not realize could even exist. I'm thinking, well, science is science. We have it all. And basically, it's like walking into your house, opening a door, and then you think it's a closet, and it's another wing. So that's what I'm talking about. That's how impactful and important this is. So I wanted to present this subject to you guys. Angels, by the way, well, we'll go through that. The lost knowledge of the angles, or angels, used to be the same word. Used to be the same. Yep. Or what is qualitative physics and why is it important? To be the true gods and goddesses we are, we need to learn to understand and speak the language of nature, which is biogeometry. Only those who can see the invisible can do the impossible. That's on Dr. Karim's desk, and it is absolutely true. And we're all learning to see and see the invisible. That's what gives us the qualities and the bioregulatory energetic medicine and so on. Ancient Egypt is the core of our Western civilization. Everything comes from there. Pharmaceuticals, even that, medicine, music, modern science, etc. And we know that. I mean, the back of the dollar bill has the pyramid on it, right? And the missing and the seeing eye. And we have Pythagoras brought modern math and science to the Western world. The obelisk comes from Egypt. Pythagoras would have brought more if he wasn't threatened with his life to not teach the qualitative physics. He said, you can teach the quantitative, don't teach this other stuff. So what happened, they told us, and we talked about Akhenaten. Here's a representative skull, anyway, from Egypt, of some of these demigods, as we might call them, where it was human, E.T. kind of early breeding, and that's who those early pharaohs were. And we see, of course, the ships, the helicopter kind of image. This is from like thousands and thousands of years ago. You know, we know there's a lot going on. I was putting out a course. I am not an authorized instructor, but I could not sit kind of quietly at home and not talk about this. At least give friends and family the basics for what we call vibrational radiesthesia, or dowsing with shape-caused waves. Not mental dowsing, but actually a science like Rudolf Steiner I'll get to in a minute. So, for example, I would say I'd refer to myself as a 21st century shaman, because I can learn this stuff that lets me do the impossible. For example, things like clearing my foods of harmful pesticides or additives, or any of those that are going to affect my health. Neutralizing radiation from our wireless router or the phones. So all of this we're learning. This is what biogeometry is bringing forth. And even occasionally to determine the root causes of a health issue, UTI, something else, really easy, and then correcting them. Pretty cool. I mean, all of us can be doing this. I mean, I know a lot of you do it, different modalities. This is another one. And I have a couple of things online you can watch. You'll have access to this with my Turkish partner. So I did some of these skill videos. So it's always there. We can talk more later. I can show you some things. Dr. Emoto, who's been talked about, was a big supporter of biogeometry because, as he said, he didn't have to cherry pick photos for his book. Every time he put one of the cubes, for example, next to the water crystals or something like this, there's other tools also, they were all perfect. And he was like, and so we were working with him and his son, who actually ran the one of the labs on the sounds, and I think it's related to, we've talked to him in other conferences. I forgot his name. And then George, the water guy, doing some of the structured water and wild stuff. But amazing things. Applications, healthier crops, animal husbandry. You don't need to do chemicals, fertilizers. You'll get better growing plants faster, healthier, without any of that, using these tools. Architecture, you build spaces that support and enhance health naturally by the angles and different things. Healthcare and healing. The centering force replenishes the body energy field, restores balance. You can use it for accurate dosing for drugs. We're all different. We're heavier, we're lighter, we're more sensitive, we're not. So it's very easy to use this and get a good read. Do I need that vitamin D today? Or do I need, how much of this pharmaceutical for my condition? Maybe I just need half of it, right? Because the doctors, right, they prescribe things, you know, most of it's like the same for everybody. So this way you can really see, no, I don't need that much. Electrosmog, the same thing. It's a way to detect and negate these harmful energies. Gee, I wonder why we haven't learned about biogeometry before. Okay, so here's just a quick example. In a field they were working with a university, and all of this is data-based, evidence-based, working with a university in Holland. They were able to grow apples. After 3 months, they still look beautiful. They had more vitality, held up by putting colors in the field, like color balancing the field, different ways, or using angles. And we'll get to that. You can use all these things, like the sound therapy. We can be using the sounds for this. It depends. Normally, we know you can't grow plants in salt water. This is a sweet potato. One of the guys, biogeometry people, who was an engineer, said, in the Red Sea area, can we grow with salt water? You think we can use biogeometry? Dr. Karim said, I don't know, let's give it a shot. And so on the left is a regular sweet potato grown with fresh water, that phase. In the middle is salt water, what you'd expect with this sweet potato. But on the right is the sweet potato grown in salt water, but using these biogeometry enhancements, certain angles to raise the energy. And what they show, and it's growing better than the freshwater one. It's already starting to bloom, put buds there. So what does this tell us? It tells us basically that energy has that primacy over matter. If you can control that, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, we could use the ocean feeding all these people, right? You don't have to desalinate, at least for growing crops and things. You could be doing it this way. So radiation at the National Egyptian Center, they did an experiment. They put basically mice in radioactive cages. And after the control group was, they had one group in radioactive cages with the biogeometry cube, as we call it, next to the cages. And then the other group was the radioactive cages without a cube. And after 3 months, the tumors, the mice in the chambers made with the radioactive materials that did not have a cube developed tumors, as you would expect. The ones in the chambers or the radioactive cages with the cube next to it were perfectly healthy. Oh, then I'm thinking back then, this is when I was studying Fukushima. All these people, we could be doing this. Oh my God, right? So the difference between centering and polarity medicine. We talked a little bit about this. If your heart's beating too fast, whether I suppose with acupuncture or certain modalities, you're given something to slow it down. If it's too slow, or like your blood pressure is too low, you give somebody a medication, or maybe it's needling, maybe that's different. You can tell me more, to raise it up, right? That's polarity medicine, high-low. And in polarity medicine, certainly with pharmaceuticals, there's a chance you can make it too low or too high, which is a problem in itself. With this, it's centering medicine. And that's kind of light therapy, sound therapy. It brings everything back to the natural center and the original biological function, energetic function of the organism. So you can't overdose. You can't give too little, too much. Maybe too little if you don't notice it. But you can't give too much. And that's what this centering, that's what biogeometry is all about. It's a centering energy. It's the energy coming from the other side of the veil, shall we say, into creation. It's that creative force. Here we have, using crystal fusion light, like the Solarigem, that is a centering energy. It's not too much, too little. It's just going to support what you need. Another thing, so these are called, there's something called the qualities of scale. All of these can heal or help somebody. We know them. Shape, well, we haven't talked much about shape. We've talked about sound healing. Color, that's part of that in light therapy. And we also have shapes. We also have angles. So all of these can affect the functioning and health and healing and the things we're talking about. All statues have chakras. I learned that. I thought that was so cool. I'm like, oh, how is that possible? But it's the shape of the human body. There are chakras in statues. You can use statues as surrogates to work on yourself or a patient or something else. And we would do that. Very cool. Sound therapy. Dr. Karim worked with a composer, and they even did brain tests to develop this one CD, for example, that has all of this, all the music is perfectly harmonized to just support your energy field. So when you play it, and it's actually nice, it's like a 15-minute piece, it does that. It achieves brain synergy, balances biological functions. They tested it in the lab. They've got it down with the brain. So, and even they have a silent CD that you put it on, there's nothing, but it's recorded. So when you play it, it will, just like in your office, for example, or at home, it can just raise the energy. Biosignatures is another area. He has mapped out, I kind of think of it as acupuncture or Chinese medicine on steroids, but this is the foundation from which feng shui and Chinese medicine and all these arts we practice came from. So this is the original science. What he's done is gone through every organ in the body, looked at all the energy pathways with his team, put them down into a 2D form, and so you can resonate with it. If you take, for example, and we've heard about these studies in Germany and elsewhere, where if you have a liver issue, but you take a healthy liver, a picture, not of a like living somebody's liver, but like an anatomical diagram, you put it up and the person can wear it or it's on their computer every day, it actually helps them heal up. So he's taken that principle, and there's a whole book and working on different, and work on these different biosignatures, including for specific disease issues, chronic issues, radiation and so on. It's very extensive. So for example, one day, like a UTI, my friend had a UTI, and I said, wait, before you go to the doctor, why don't we let me just check. So I brought out, they would teach us this, an anatomy chart, and I find that, the female reproductive organs, etc. And I just took a pendulum, shape-caused wave pendulum, and was able to find, if I just traveled along the urethra and the canal and so forth from the bladder down, I found a spot where my pendulum went the wrong way. It went counterclockwise, meaning there's a problem. There's an energy block there. And using biogeometry, just corrected the energy block. It was really simple, and you'll see some tools. And an hour later, she calls up and says, oh my God, I'm fine, the symptoms are gone. And that was it. I kept that correction there. But it was really simple. She didn't have to go to the doctor, get medications, whatever it might be. So in Switzerland, they went into 2 towns because they put cell phone towers in the churches, and they started affecting everybody's health, the animals, the plants. I mean, it was a big deal. And the cell phone people said, no, everything's within standards. And so they were exasperated out of reasons, because Dr. Karim had studied in Zurich. They called him up and said, can you come up here and take a look? So he went up with his team I think it's on the video. I don't want to play it right now. But he went up there and basically put corrections around the transmitter, and everybody just felt better. They gave him the key to the town, 2 towns or villages, and he went in. The animals, they could tell. These are like farmers and people, they like, oh my God, thank you. And the Swiss Telecom Authority was there monitoring it, and they said, yes, this guy, all the metrics we had, this has corrected everything. We don't know how it works, so and we're not going to tell people about it because it's not our thing, but it did work for everybody. Design structures, there are some places in Egypt that, and they teach this is in Montreal, I think, where you have these, and they not only balance the home with biogeometry, it affects, in this case, this person's home, an area about 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers around the house. The energy of the fields, the birds, everything nature. So it's really pretty cool. It's clearing and raising the coherence, and they teach this in graduate classes, graduate programs in Egypt, maybe somewhere else in overseas in Europe, because there are a lot of Europeans and others that are learning this. And I just want to mention poison arrows. I don't know if you could see it, and they're not very good diagrams, but imagine there are buildings, or even if you're sitting at home and you've got that kind of a wall that is right facing you, like you're sitting across, and if you looked at it, it's kind of pointing at you. There's a 45-degree wall, right, comes together, and you're kind of sitting across from the corner. That is sending off harmful energy. And in Japan, there's some companies built buildings that came to a point pointing at their competitor, like to mess them up, which I think is cruel. But it's been done, and people end up getting sick. So, but if you're at home, just be cognizant, like if your desk chair is right where the wall is kind of coming towards you, or a living room, move over a foot so you're not getting that energy beam called vertical negative green. This is, everyone uses this to balance their 747, as you know. Dr. Cream was hired to balance the energy so at like 50,000 feet, it's like you're in a sanctuary. Here's the before with the BioWell camera, and here's afterwards. Nice. So we know that geometry is really at the foundation of reality. Linus Pauling, who wrote one of the classic textbooks on chemistry, said it could have been a book on geometry because it's all the angles and the connections. That's what it's really about. Tesla's map to multiplication, it's all about angles and patterns. Molecular geometry, what they teach is the substances, reactivity, polarity, phase of matter, color, magnetism. Biological activity are all determined by its geometry. Who knew? So energy plus shape equals function. Whether it's a cup, this way is going to hold the water. Everything is designed like that. Source energy. So we kind of know this, the quantum physics piece. I like the diagram. You kind of have the Godhead at the top, and it goes down as everything slows down to the physical 3D reality and speed of light. Above that, we have emotional, mental, spiritual, just like Rudolf Steiner's Planes of Natures, as he taught, and the Chinese and other traditions. We only see in a very narrow band, right? And here, our senses are very limited. So what this does is it gives us a chance to see around us without our senses, to augment them. Here we are, the Planes of Nature, similar to Steiner's work. The bottom is the physical, that's up to 3D. Then you have the vital physical, a little different. And then the emotional plane, the mental plane, the spiritual 2, also causal, and then 3 is the Godhead. And we can test for all of these. And I want to share something. So in the temple walls, they use man as a measure, man, woman, man, big man, as a measure of all things. And this, they have an ideal human on there, and this is a specific chart they have that explains, like, as I said, we are the event horizon. All of these things need to be in balance for us to bring the consciousness out, feed it back properly to the universe, and do the best we can, you know, like really live to our fullest. Every one of our souls, cells, goes to back to Nassim Harameyn's work, the physicist, where there's a black hole in every cell. And it's that black hole that goes inside to the universe. It's kind of our spirit piece, which we talked about earlier, coming through. So I'm going to show you briefly. This is what they've done and taken that temple drawing and put it into this, what we call an archetypal ruler, or what biogeometry calls it. And at the bottom, you can put your witness or your face, your patient, your person, something of them up here, and then the issue that's going on. It could be, in this case, what do we have? For example, gluteal minimicus. Okay, something knee, like a knee issue, right? And they have a knee issue, and we have the person, we have the issue, and then you want to know, well, where's it coming from? With this tool, you can have, I don't know if, yeah, the right one. You can put this on one of the little connectors here, and it goes through the physical, the vital, the emotional, the spiritual, all these mental planes. And you can run this across, and using a BG3 pendulum or an ICA pendulum, which there are several, just you can figure out what's going on right away with somebody. Is the problem coming from emotional? It's from mental? Is it from a higher causal thing? And then there are corrections. They're all geometrical. You just put this on here, broadcast them out, and that can correct people, take care of the problem. Like, pretty simple. It's not always, I mean, it doesn't always work. There's, of course, a lot of us have multiple things going on. But I have used that myself. I had a retina that was detaching, and I was not very happy about that. I'm like, oh, I don't need more things going on, thank you. And I was able to trace it down to what the issue was with that, put corrections on, and in a couple of weeks, I was better. Did it myself. So really, really good stuff. All right, again, that's like two sides of the same coin. Quantitative, qualitative, subjective, objective, chronic care, acute care, chronic disease, acute, you know, all of that is kind of similar. And this connects that, I think, the subjective and objective. Now we know, though, through physics, the observer effect, what you look at, you resonate with, you become, you can't separate the experimenter from the experiment. And that's what we're all doing. We're all intertwined with our patients, our clients, our friends, our trees outside. So it's really, you know, we want to be cognizant of that. And this is actually, again, using that guitar string or a monochord, which has certain vibrations and it has certain subjective qualities. And you could take, I have a great chart somewhere, so that the note like middle C is connected with a certain smell, a certain color red, and it goes the color red, I can use this hand, and a certain touch, you know, rough, abrasive, and it's all how the senses interpret that frequency. We'll skip this one right now, yeah, better geometry, but there is something to that. It's like the masters, when they did their paintings, sacred geometry was there. Everything comes out of source, we call it a white light. The prism splits it into the many colors. We have the same thing in our senses, so we have the one quality, we'll say, abstract universal qualities, and any of these can be split, let's say this is the quality, into the taste buds, right? Sweet to sour, into the taste, into touch, into red versus into your color spectrum, into your do, re, mi, la, fa, sol, la, mi, into your musical spectrum. So it depends on, again, what sense you're looking at, and we can all be working with them, the color, the sense, the touch, for corrections and helping people too. I'm not going to go the sense scale, but it's a cool chart. You'll have this. You can look through and see how we get the raw data in, put out our projection of the world, and how we can work with it. In 3D reality, and the crosses on the churches, right? We have the cross. Basically, it started with the pagan cross. It was like this, a circle with the cross in it. And that was really referring to, we're in the physical world as electromagnetic. Magnetic is the horizontal, the vertical is the electric. Well, in between the vertical and the horizontal and the electric, you have all of the other emotional, mental, spiritual, all of these other qualities are there, which they haven't told us about, and they're now coming out. And depending on the angle of the waveform, you're going to affect those differently, right? And that can be in sound or light or anything else. Also, the energy flow, the energy key is really important. And if you're looking, when energy is flowing, let's say south to north, on the right, you're going to have a clockwise rotation. On the left, you're going to have anti-clockwise. And on the clockwise side, it's the cycles of life. It's going from spirit to matter. We like that positive clockwise spin. If somebody is spinning, everything is going counterclockwise, like, that's not good unless they're like wanting to die or you want to take something to spirit. The sun also, we do corrections. We lock in because every hour the sun is moving. It's going through a different part of the spectrum, and it's whether it's green, blue, ultraviolet, that keeps affecting us. That's why we hear about certain ceremonies at dusk, for example, or in the dawn. You're going out with the sunrise. It does certain things to our energy fields. So every day the sun rises in the UV spectrum, and it sets in the infrared spectrum. Ultraviolet, I was going to say UV, ultraviolet, sets in the infrared, and throughout the day it changes. And what's kind of interesting is you can actually look at a line. Somebody writes a line down, and you don't know if it was written this way or this way, but it shows up on the line. The beginning of the line, you can test for ultraviolet. And then I don't know what it's good for really, maybe for drafting or architecture, you're looking at historical documents, oh, that's where that started. And there's other things I'm sure too. So we talk about compression waves, that's what this looks at, because everything is moving. There's energy going through everything. We're traveling through the universe. There's vortexes, etc. And all of the waves bouncing off of things are these compression waves. And that's what we're all working with, essentially. And this began with physical radiesthesia in the 20th century. The Jesuits used this when they went to a new country, or Africa or South America, and they had to be sure if they're going to drink the water, eat the food, first of all, that they're not going to die. So they would use what we're calling biogeometry to protect themselves, to make the corrections right there so they could drink and eat and be safe. And the second thing was, if they want to look like they're magicians and impress the chieftain or the shaman, they could do that. So then that's how they got all the people to convert, I'm sure. It's part of it. André de Bélizel in 1933 completed the energy spectrum, found out what we were talking about, which is vertical negative green I was talking about, and that can hurt people. In fact, it's down in this area. It's nothing to do with green, but just good to know. That's the only energy quality that's harmful to people, and it's in like the kosher laws and the Islamic. Don't eat pork, don't eat shellfish. They all have vertical negative green. It's in the decay cycle of life. So we want to stay, maybe that's where these came about. We don't know. But it's the only thing harmful to humans. It weakens your energy field. And they used to use that to mummify people, the Egyptians. Vertical negative green is in EMFs, pesticides, GMOs, earth grids, pork, and it's in lies. So we have, I love this stuff. There's a kit, the vertical and horizontal pendulums you can get on the Biogeometry websites for like $125 or something. And you tune them. I mean, it's like both sides have tuners, and you can look for different things. You don't have to be an expert. This will work with anybody. But my main thing is, and also for geopathic stress, they have different rods that connect with these. Like this copper rod goes into the bottom. and you can use this to detect certain of the Hartman or the Curry grid lines if you're working with that. But what's important about, I mean, the lies thing, it's worth $125. I used to use this on my kids, you know, pull it out. You sure? Is that the truth, Felicia? You know. But for our friends, for things, and you don't even have to listen to them. You can listen in your head. You can look at something written. You can look at something on TV, in a magazine. Is that real? Somebody asked me the other day about something, conspiracy theory, and someone was, and I just checked. I said, spinning. Nope, it's not. It's not. It's a lie. It's a lie. So it's good, and you guys can use these. I recommend it, because a lot of times things come up and we're wondering, is this real? Is this true? You know, or are they just trying to scare me, or whatever it is? And it just takes a second to check. Oh, and I use these and other pendulums on LinkedIn, and you get connections. People want to, make a connection. I have found a couple of times, a bunch of times really, that their names, they're not even real names. You can like look at the picture and the name and just go like, let's see, is there? Nope. And they're trolls or something. I don't know what's going on, but we see that there's a lot of this going on today. That's other stories. Corrected domes, and we were talking about that. Pyramids. The original pyramid has indented sides. If it was just straight sides, you'd be hurting people. So there's different ways. The same with domes, because they're upside down. Pyramids, it's the same geometry. So you have different corrections, whether it's the windows around the bottom, a certain a number, and it's a specific number, or it's those spires on top, that corrects them, makes it so they're safe to go into. Different pendulums that we work with. The energy quality, we call it BG3, the Biogeometry 3, and basically that consists of the higher harmonic of gold, higher harmonic of ultraviolet, and a horizontal negative green, which is a spiritual carrier wave. Okay, so these are all the things we're looking for to create in our homes, our spaces, because that's all the life-supporting energy. And we look for that. And it's found naturally in sacred spots. Machu Picchu, there are new things in our chakras. They all put out this BG3. And there's a specific pendulum that brings that up, that tests for that. Angels and angles used to be the same thing, was originally angle and was angel in Old English. The netters, they're attributes of nature, like the I Ching, right? Or the 99 words for God in the Torah and in the Quran, all of this, it's attributes of reality, basically. So these are the tools that are available. We could talk more about it. Lots of things you can use at home, putting in the ground to make your house and space, like sing. There are grid lines everywhere. It can create trees that look like that. That's why we want to be cognizant of this. It'll affect people's beds. Important. We want to heal people. If they're sleeping on top of a line crossing, it's not going to. It's going to hurt them. We all need to be aware of this, and there are ways to correct it. And I will just end on this, and we can talk about how some of this is all integrated into your work later on. Thank you.
Thank you.